explained, this broadcast is known to cause increased amounts of FOMO. Wells only and his guests are not responsible for any losses you may accrue for having weak hands. Where the haters at? Yeah, bitches still ain't showed up. And now, right, we got Hex, flawless uptime. People thought this was a joke. Now they're mad at the chart. It's lullaby music, really, right? It's hard to believe that something like this exists. I get it, but you just gotta come to terms with reality. It just exists. Nothing we can do about it. Buy a steak and chill, baby. Shout out to Marketable Thoughts. You can't get this kind of shit for free anywhere else. And it's very important to understand that. And we're handing it out. People thought this was a joke. Now they're mad at the chart. So much luck, once again, because the facts don't give a fuck. Peace. Got to add myself. What's going on, guys? Hope everybody's having an outstanding Thursday. It's been an interesting day. More of the same. Just a lot more people getting exposed. We're just gonna start off with some videos. It's crazy out here. I hope you guys are doing all right. Hope the world is making a little sense. Because it's just wild right now. It's really wild. Yeah. Let's get these videos on and popping, man. Give me a second. Let me get them ready. So, as you guys probably know, it's been a little funny with all the weather and all that stuff. The weather hasn't been quote unquote normal for a while, and we all know why. But the average person is not going to have a grasp of the severity of why this stuff is happening. It's not believable, right? To the average person, it's definitely not believable. So you kind of got to be ready, right? And now here comes this hurricane that was clearly manipulated. And there were a few postings speaking to such. I saw one video one day where it was like some weird jet stream in the sky. And you can bet your bottom dollar is what did all of this. Because it definitely looked weird. I'd never seen anything like that before. And then comes a hurricane and wipes out, a tenth of the U.S. or whatever. It's fucking crazy, man. Like it doesn't make sense. When you sit here and you do the quote unquote math, right? It doesn't make sense. Where's all this craziness coming from? Right? Where is all this craziness coming from? It doesn't add up when you start putting all the pieces to the puzzle together. Or at least trying to anyway. Damn. How about that? Got an Amber Alert on his phone about food shortages in his area, North Carolina. Everyone's buying food and supplies and shipping off to. Yeah, I got some videos on that, on what's happening in North Carolina. Apparently, got a little Maui situation developing down there. So it's gonna get interesting as far as this election, right? Because when you sit there and you look at everything, sad to say, but it's entirely plausible that they would just swing a hurricane in people's direction just to stop them from being able to vote or whatever the appearance of it, whatever the case is. You got to realize that that's just the case. Um, so yeah. All right, we got these videos lined up. Let's get them cracking, lacking. Let me share the screen. And we're going to start with, let's see here. Let's start with these static ones first. Then we'll move to the videos. And then move on to the headlines. All right. Hold on, guys. Sorry. Bum, bum, bum. Alrighty. So, what's going on? Why did my screen showing? Oh, happens every time. Alrighty. So the first bit is Maricopa County in Arizona sets a new record for the most eviction filings ever filed over the year's first 9 months. Cool. Very cool. I'm proud of them for setting these records. I guess somebody has to do it, right? Shit is just crazy what's going on in this country, man. Biden-Harris administration, spending versus results. For those of you that love to talk about taxes and how we must pay taxes and all that nonsense. $7.5 billion on electric vehicle charging stations. 2.5 years into it, 7 stations total installed. Rural internet service. That was a big thing. Sounded great. Even had me fooled for about a split second there. 3 years later, all that money in Ukraine. Oh man, shit is funny. For the third time in history, the U.S. stock market is trading over a quarter in the dark. This means that you do not see any of this volume touching the exchanges whatsoever. Period. Now imagine that. That's like a crypto transaction. Because that's exactly what that's supposed to be. So some people can have it, some people cannot. Think about that one. And next time you think about politics. All right, we're going to get into North Carolina. Apparently, a lot of crazy shit going on down there. If you're down there, good luck. Hope you're making it through. Um, I'm afraid to say I'm not even surprised that this is the reaction. The whole idea is to destabilize the country in every way possible. So, goals are being achieved. And that's what we're seeing here today in this present day. So let's just get into this video. Well, I thought the first one was a couple of minutes. Guess not. Let's go with the shortest one first. And saying reportedly the Lake Lure, North Carolina fire chief is threatening to arrest people for rescuing stranded Helene victims. Lake Lure is one of the hardest hit areas in western North Carolina, and much of it is only accessible by helicopter. What the L is going on?
Low cloud coverage
Let me know if
is
you guys
Lake
can hear me.
Lure.
The cries for help from people stranded without food, water, or electricity hit social media soon after the flooding last
Whoops.
Friday.
So my parents are upstairs. Their address is Banner Elk. They are in the first condo. If you receive this, please give me a call back. Thank you.
Sidham's phone started lighting up on Saturday with people begging for help.
I mean, I could hear the desperation in her voice. This is multiple phone calls, voicemails, text messages, and you could hear people desperate for help.
Sidham and his son rescued 4 people on Saturday and spent the night in a nearby pilot's lounge, then decided to fly again Sunday morning.
I spoke with my son, which is my co-pilot. I said, hey, do you want to go back out and try to help today? And his response was, there's so many messages, I don't think we can't not go help.
Sidham and his son were headed up to Black Mountain. Flight tracking shows no flight restrictions in place Saturday or Sunday morning when Sidham flew through the Lake Lure Gap. But that was all about to change. The Sidham spotted an older couple waiting for help, then landed in what's left of their driveway.
Hey, I want you to let me get in. You step out and go out, help her in, put her bag in the basket, her strapped in. I'm going to take her down, come back. I'll take him, I'll come back, and then I'll get you, okay?
I originally left my son, co-pilot, on the side of the mountain. It was kind of unstable, so I didn't want to put more weight in the helicopter to lift back off. So I left my son with the other victim, and I was just one person down at the time. And you could hear me in the video talking through with the victims and with my son what we're going to do.
3 minutes away, Sidham spotted a group of rescuers just down the river. He landed and found someone in charge.
Told him my background experience, law enforcement, firefighting, pilot. He immediately started helping with coordination. He gave me radio frequencies to coordinate with them on, set up a landing area for me to come back with the other victim. And in the middle of the whole conversation and then blocking the road off, I was greeted by the, at that time I didn't know, but Lake Lure fire chief or assistant chief maybe, and he shut down the whole operation. So at that point I felt like the conversation wasn't going any further. And again, he asked me to leave, and I said, hey, I have no problem getting out of your area. If that's what you want us to do, we'll leave, no issue. At that point, I asked him, what was the reason I had to leave them there? And he said, again, you're interfering with my operation. I just need you to get out of the area. I said, sir, I don't know where you were trained at, but I know how my training is, and I'm not going to leave personnel behind. I'm going back to get my co-pilot. He said, if you turn around and go back up the mountain, you're going to be arrested. I said, well, sir, I'm going back to get my co-pilot. I don't know what to tell you. And he said, I'm letting you know. And at that point, he waved for 2 law enforcement officers to come over and told me that again, if I go back up the mountain, I would be arrested.
He flew the 3-minute trip back, picked up his son, and left the woman's husband behind.
Sure, he was flooded with emotions and trying to rescue other people. And I just felt that it was best at the time to leave. So I did follow his instructions, and I had a conversation with the female victim before I left, apologized and explaining. She was standing there. She heard the whole conversation, and they were both very, very surprised, very upset. The husband, as I was leaving off of the side of the mountain, at that point, separated from his wife, he was upset. I can only imagine.
Sidham and his nearly 1,400 flight hours turned his chopper around and headed back to South Carolina, passing people waving for help along the way.
As I was actually leaving to go back to get my son, the original chief or captain that I spoke to, his crew and himself, they came back over and said, hey, man, we can't tell you to go get the victim. We can't even ask you to go get the victim, but we can tell you if you come back with the victim, we'll have you a designated landing spot, and we'll make sure they don't come over here.
So there was no flight restriction when you went in?
No flight restriction when I went in. It went in place 20 or 30 minutes after the confrontation with Mr.
Quite something, folks. All right, let's go on to the next one.
Low cloud coverage.
It's just crazy.
days after Helene wreaked havoc in North Carolina. But one Pageland man's efforts to help are now the source of controversy. He flew his own chopper on his own dime to help stranded victims, but that man says he abandoned his rescue missions after a
Sorry,
fire
this is the
official
same
threatened to
thing.
have.
I'm sure it is. Yep.
Weather manipulation, weather modification is not a conspiracy theory. They have told us time and time again, and by they, I am talking about the powers that be, but scientists, researchers, and so forth have told us time and time again they can manipulate the weather. They can create very powerful storms, monsters. The government has been manipulating the weather ever since the 1930s, if not before then, under such projects like Operation Storm Fury and Operation Cirrus. So it's definitely no secret. And I'm sorry if I sound a little hoarse or chalky, it is because I'm actually getting sick and my throat hurts very, very bad at the moment. But going back to weather manipulation, we actually have something rather interesting when it comes to North Carolina Hurricane Helene and a particular agreement. Now, for those not aware, lithium batteries have been really making their rounds in the news lately. Here in the United States, where I'm from, certain items with lithium inside have been catching on fire. Then I believe there was a port that had cases of lithium, which also caught on fire. So, like I said, we have been really hearing a lot about lithium lately. You see, North Carolina has a lot of lithium deposits. Do you see where I'm going at here? There is a corporation that really wants these lithium deposits. That corporation is called Albemarle Corporation. Now, Albemarle is owned by both BlackRock and Vanguard. That shouldn't be very surprising because BlackRock and Vanguard have their hands in everything. But the reason why the Albemarle Corporation said they wanted these lithium deposits was to create lithium batteries for EVs, electronic vehicles. And you have to remember, electronic vehicles are very important to the powers that be, the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, and so forth, when it comes to the 2030 agenda. Matter of fact, last month in September, the World Economic Forum and the United Nations met to speed up the 2030 agenda. So these lithium deposits in North Carolina, again, are very, very important to the powers that be and their agenda.
Invited for the meeting when we meet for the 20th Government Summit. You will use the app like Uber, but not anymore to call some driver, but automatically guided car, a self-driven car, will come to your hotel or wherever you are, bring you to the airport. No, Los Angeles. It was heaviest traffic who took me into this will allow to transform highways into parks and other public spheres.
2 years ago, back in 2022, the Albemarle Corporation wanted to restart mining for lithium at a site along Interstate 85 in Kings Mountain, North Carolina, that was shut down back in the 1980s. But you see, there's a problem. That problem happens to be, and reading this article back on March 29, 2022, residents worry about keeping homes if lithium mining restarts in Kings Mountain. That is right. The same exact place that the Albemarle Corporation wants to start mining, well, there's homes, stores, and businesses near these deposits. Some of them are actually on top of these lithium deposits. Take, for example, a technical center along Raven Circle, which is still on the 800-acre plot of land that the Albemarle Corporation wants to dig under. Then there's this woman, Deborah Dixon, who told the news she had been told her family's home along Park Race Road is just outside of the proposed mining site, but not quite far enough away to be spared from its impact. So you don't even have to live inside the mining zone, but you can be outside the mining zone and still face an impact. These residents were also worried of a potential buyout, and they would be offered much less than what their homes were worth. Back in 2022, homes sold in Cleveland County around $196,000, and that price was increasing. These community members, these residents, they gathered in protest. They had meetings. They said they definitely did not want to move. Buying a home is very difficult. There were even people who lived farther out who also had questions about the impact of air and water quality. And when these questions were raised to the Albemarle Corporation, well, they had no response. These residents were going to put up a real battle. They were not going to move. Well, flash forward to February 2024, the Albemarle and the BMW Corporation announced a multi-year agreement to supply battery-grade lithium to BMW for use in their electronic vehicles. The agreement will begin in 2025 and includes a joint research interest in developing safer and more energy-dense lithium-ion batteries. But not just BMW, the Albemarle Corporation also had an agreement with Ford Motor Company and Caterpillar. But it doesn't end there. It does not end there. The Albemarle and the United States Department of Defense. The United States Department of Defense awarded Albemarle a $90 million agreement to support the expansion of domestic lithium mining and production. The agreement will help Albemarle reopen its Kings Mountain, North Carolina lithium mine, which is expected to be operational between 2025 and 2030. So, with the United States Department of Defense help, the Albemarle Corporation will be able to mine in Kings Mountain, North Carolina, where we have all these residents, stores, and buildings that do not want to move. So, what happens when residents do not want to give up their land? Well, just like Hawaii, as coincidence may have it, quote unquote coincidence, Mother Nature kicks in and helps them move, helps them leave. Now, when I say Mother Nature, of course I'm being sarcastic. We know what's actually taking place here. Well, come to find out, once again, quote unquote coincidence kicks in because the same exact spots that the Albemarle Corp wants to mine, well, Hurricane Helene just happened to ravage the area. This area was the most impacted by Hurricane Helene. We are talking about towns wiped off the map. This individual on TikTok, she goes by at Holy Kila, has some really interesting things to say about what's taking place with Hurricane Helene and this agreement.
I say what I find suspicious as shit, that one of the areas affected by hurricane into an agreement with this company right here to mine lithium for electric cars starting in 2025. Now that area is completely devastated. This is a $90 million agreement between the DoD and this company right here to get Kings Mountain, North Carolina lithium mine up and running by 2030. If that area has been inundated, is in a disaster zone, then the government can come in and do eminent domain and they can pay you what it was worth 5 years ago rather than what it's worth right now. Imagine that your home is turned into a watery lot and the government comes to you and says, hey, I'll pay you what you paid for it. You're going to take it and you're going to go, right? What do you think is going to happen right here now that they want this lithium mine up and running by 2025, 2030 at the latest? Back in 1947, we had the Florida Georgia hurricane, or Hurricane 9, and it was the first hurricane to be targeted for weather modification. What happened was General Electric, the U.S. Navy, the Army, the Air Force, they poured dry ice into this hurricane using airplanes to see what would happen. Would they slow it down? Well, what happened was it slowed down a little bit, but it turned west really sharp. Let me show you. This is the path that the hurricane took in 1947. Does it look similar to you? Probably not. It's a coincidence, right? Moving on. I'm sure this is just another coincidence, but do you know who owns the most shares in that lithium mine? BlackRock and Vanguard.
Well, I think we have kind of covered all the angles on this story. um, we've been talking about it. I don't know how long already at this point. So yeah, um, man, it's crazy that we're living to see this, but it's real, man. Don't think it's not, cause 9/11 wasn't real either, right? And that's kind of the important thing to take into the pocket with you, which is the severity of what reality actually is. Um, it's crazy. It really, really is. So, you know, stay focused, people. Stay focused. Yeah. Stay focused because you just never know when everything is going to change wherever you're at. You don't know. Look at what's happened to Syria, Lebanon, all these places in the Middle East. Apparently, Israel strike the Russian weapons depot in Syria. So there's literally no telling what the hell is next because these people are itching to get the war machine going, and they don't care what it costs. Clearly, um, I don't think we need to see every single aspect of the thing, but apparently this is after the hit. Is there anything
الله
else?
أكبر شهداء.
There you go.
حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل.
On to the next. Let's just listen to this. Damn, should have left them fucking orders. Um, so there's been to an agreement. There's been an agreement, right? While a long time ago. I don't know if people even know, but yeah.
You saying Hassan Nasrallah had agreed to a ceasefire just moments before he was assassinated?
He agreed. He agreed. Yes, yes. We agreed completely. Lebanon agreed with ceasefire, but consulting with the Hezbollah, the speaker, Mr. Berry, consulted with Hezbollah, and we informed the Americans and the French that what happened.
So,
And they told us that Mr. Netanyahu also agreed on the statement that was issued by both presidents.
okay, well, you saying Hassan Nasrallah had agreed?
So that's what's been going on. Yeah, whole lot of lying and scamming and cheating and stealing. The usual. Nothing fancy. Just the usual. Let's see. Yeah. So be prepared for anything, guys, because you don't know what can happen, when, where, what, why. I mean, if you live in a resource rich area, apparently you're free game too, even if you're on U.S. soil. So be mindful of the facts. Um, let's go into the latest stories for today. America last after spending 640 million on migrants, and that number's a lie, and billions abroad. FEMA suddenly broke, and I think we've all heard about this by now. Uh, FEMA's budget is like 30 billion a year or something like that. Oh, what is it? I know their budget is either 3 or 30 billion. I can't remember which one it is. I'm pretty sure it's the bigger number, given that it's 2024. Ah, 20 billion. I mean, seems feasible. Point is, what are they doing with it? Because it's gone already and it's only September and there really haven't been that many instances in which they could have used that money for disasters. So it's rather interesting, I'd like to think. Coalition of 19 GOP AGs launch investigation into Act Blue over money laundering and allegations. Let's see if anything actually comes of this. There's always some report, but we know how that goes. Cybersecurity chief says foreign interference won't significantly alter U.S. election results. No, interesting comment. Oil surges on report Biden discussing strike of Iranian oil facilities. And we'll come back to oil in a little bit because that is a hot topic today, right? I mean, I think everybody, we look, bonds are down, right? We talked about this yesterday. It was kind of right there in between, and it was either going to hold or roll. 123 was a level and a half, and we're at 123.12. So we're below. Let's take a look at crude. Oof, up another buck from the last time I even looked at it. So the market is finally dialing in. I should probably get some options on what's going on here. What's the day? Thursday? Yeah, nah. Probably wait till. Yeah, I'm gonna get some options. Damn, I like to wait for a pullback. Market's finally catching on to what's going on, which is cool. Indicators called it a couple of days ago. We talked about it, and here we are, about $5 later. Um, Pullback is probably the best bet if you're gonna get into this game. 71, maybe 70 if you get lucky. Uh, but I don't know. We know this thing is gonna rip. Question is, how far is it gonna go? Because if Israel is now really going to be attacking Russian assets, man, this thing is really just getting started. And there's no telling how far it's going to go, where we're going to end up. Nothing. There's really no way to tell how crazy this party can get. And that's kind of why I'm like a little antsy. You know, I saw it earlier and it was probably a buck lower. Let me turn this damn thing off. And I really don't know why I didn't buy yesterday, but whatever. It's probably, yeah, like around here. Let me see. Has to be here. Yeah, I probably saw it this morning because it wasn't. It was like whatever. It didn't really motivate me, but after looking at this thing rip another buck, woof, probably time to wait. Yeah, we got a nice little divergence locking in on the hourly. Um, so we'll just wait and see. Volatility is expanding, or excuse me, contracting, because prices are going up. So we'll see how this goes. We'll see how this goes. But I'm definitely going to be taking a position in crude here because you kind of just have to at this point. Now let's check in on the crude counterparts just to. Look, I know I got to go out this weekend. Oh, it's sunny outside. I thought it was cloudy for some reason. Heat Noah, what you doing, bud? Let's check you out. Market is currently ripping. Uh, uh, damn it, man. Yep. Hit gas back above $2. So got hit bugging out. I really gotta take time and waste fucking calling Verizon. I'm really pissed by that. Because I've had Fios forever and it's never ever been like this. Like I gotta literally call them. I keep losing internet like at 10 o'clock in the morning. What is this? Go back to the stories real quick. We already know that they're playing games, right? We're well aware all this stuff is just they're trying to poke the bear. So it's gonna be interesting to see how Russia retorts if they retort. U.S. services survey soar in September. Prices paid explode higher. That's why that's soared. I mean, all this stuff is embedded. Google CEO eyes atomic power for AI data centers as big tech seeks nuclear revival to achieve net zero. Man, I'm all about progress and shit, right? But I gotta be honest. It's sad when the motivating factor for power distribution improvements is the tech bro saying, "Hey, let's do it because we need more power to make more money." Like, come on, really? Is that all we got? That's really all we got? Okay. Judge finds Newsom's new California deep fake ban. Guess what? Unconstitutional. Who would have guessed? Jobless claims remain low despite 50% plus surge in job cuts. Oh, well, I don't think those two add up, but sounds cool. Yeah, sounds cool, but I don't think those add up. Right. So Iran's high value oil, oil assets in IDF crosshairs as Israel vows, quote, painful, end quote, response. You know, imagine, excuse me, imagine getting picked on every day and finally fighting back, and this being the reply. Oh man, these people are funny. I'd slice this motherfucker. Industrial sized staffing firms reportedly support Biden Harris's mysterious nationwide migrant network. So if you're out of a job and you can't understand why you can't get hired, damn, I guess we now know why. Israel cannot fight a multi front war without support from the U.S. military. And this is when U.S. service members read their oath and apply it and do not follow unlawful orders. Will that happen? I don't know. A lot of people don't know any better. A lot of people just know to nod their heads and say yes or no, sir. So we will see what will happen here because something's definitely going to go down in some way, shape, form, right? Because we all know everything that this flag has comes from our pockets and from how inflation steals everything from us. Right. So now what we're seeing here is a graphic that compares Israel versus Iran. And we must remember Israel is the one provoking all of these Middle Eastern countries. No other country is doing anything to Israel. I mean, even the Palestinians, even though they've been harassed for 60 years by these motherfuckers, 80 years, even they're not bothering. So the problem is Israel, period. But guess what? They don't they shouldn't be doing shit. They should shut the fuck up and sit the fuck down. But because they control all media assets, seems like it's something else that's going on, doesn't it? But it's not. It's just a dog and pony show. And if you've been in the military, you know damn well what I'm talking about. Because it's exactly how the military works. And guess where that comes from? Same people that are out here trying to scam the world right now. So people got to be very aware of what's happening because they can lose everything in a weekend apparently now. Because the Jews don't give a fuck. So I don't know where this is gonna go, but these are the comments that are being made on your behalf, not on my behalf, because I'd be damned if this fool speaks for me. But I gave myself a platform to be able to make that comment, so I publicly stated, "You can kiss my ass, dude." No, ain't no way. But this is what's happening in America today, 2024. There is no federal government. Everybody, however, relies on it, not realizing that they don't actually need it. So it's really just a mental incapacitation for 99% of the populace. Something to think about. All right, let's check in with the markets. We already looked at energy. Let's look at gold. Gold is hanging up here. I mean, you got to believe that gold is not going to really retrace much at all. The volume is looking weak. So that's interesting. Momentum, however, is not. But what we do have, let's do an angle check. Because we do have, come on, 32 degrees. All right, let's see what this angle is up here. $35? Is that what that shit is? Yeah, 35. So not much of a delta there to make anything of it. So it looks like the momentum is just going to continue to progress up north. So that's what's going on. Monetary issues. Now, when we come looking at the dollar, the dollar's looking just like we expected. Strong. Once it breached this level earlier, along with this one, right, created this fair value gap. So we're just having a strong dollar, strong energy prices. All right, that's always fun. Strong gold prices. What's nat gas doing? Well, it's ripping too. Damn, look at that. Woof, nasty. So things are just moving. They're humming along. Right. The world continues to spin, and most people are not the wiser. What's silver doing? On highs as well. Right. The average person probably doesn't even have a clue because most people don't even talk about silver. Chinese stocks, what's going on over there? Taiwan hovering, but near highs, not that far off. Hang Seng, woof, man, nasty. Remember when we were talking about it back here? Yeah, I know. I'm nasty like that. All right. Bonds. Well, we already talked about bonds, so we can move on from that. Um, let's talk about inflation, actually, because I haven't really talked about that. So right now, the theory is that, or let me say the narrative, because it's really not a theory. Uh, the narrative is that inflation has been subdued. That's clearly not true when you go outside and pay for stuff. What's happened is, excuse me. But what's happened is that at the moment the Fed just lowered rates, so it seems like you know they got it under control and all of that good stuff. Think about that. Interesting comment. You guys got to remember, I'm not out here looking for like two ticks and shit. So you know, I can be on stream and trade at the same time. It's okay. I can do a few things at once because I already have an expectation of what the market's gonna do when I get into a position. So if it doesn't do that at any point in time, I'm out. That's it. I pay for every entry and I pay for every exit. So once you realize is that simple, and you are in control and you are understanding what you're doing, well, you don't really let yourself get carried away with having to click, click, click every 2 seconds, right? But you got to have some type of perspective, and that's what a lot of people don't have with the day trading stuff. But anyway, so they just cut rates, right? But people forget back here rates were going higher forever, and all this time, you know, a whole year almost, rate cut, rate cut, rate cut, rate cut, rate cut. They finally just cut rates finally, and this is what's happened since that point in time. They cut rates on the 17th. That was the top of the market. So the rate cuts are not really being reflected in the market. The market is seeing something else. So it's possible that the market will pull back to this area here, 120, 121 for now. And then by the time the next meeting comes around, they'll cut a couple more times, and that might change the sentiment of the market right with respect to interest rates right now. But in the long run, we're definitely gonna see inflation return, and it's gonna be reflected in rates. So while they're really, having a good old time and thinking all the stuff is good and stuff right now, it's only because the Fed did something they should have done a long time ago. So nothing crazy there. Cotton doing this thing. It's up. What is this? $5 or so from where we liked it, 67 and change. So that one's up. I think sugar is probably still up. Yep, it's up today, 2.5%, 23.25. Question is, how high will it go? And it looks like to at least 25. And if not 25, then all the way up here to 27. So still got a couple bucks to roll. Corn looks like it's doing a little pullback today. Yep. Soybeans, wheat, all same deal. A little pull. And yeah, it looks like they're gonna roll over for the foreseeable future, actually. So nothing crazy, probably just a pullback for a continuation move. What's coffee doing? 250, so probably near the high still. I thought I clicked on coffee. So if you got any questions, you can throw them in the chat. We've been on for 46 minutes. I'm pretty much done. We went to the news. We watched those clips I wanted you guys to see. Coffee is still near the highs. Cocoa, I think, gave a fake out move on that. Yep. However, it's interesting to note that it is below the basis of the big range, right? This 69, 65, 94 range to 10,308. It's below the midpoint of that range. So technically it's bearish. Important to pay attention to that. Yeah, VIX is up again. We talked about this yesterday, how the VIX is probably going to continue showing itself to be strong, going upward. And this is what we're seeing. And if you hate this, I'm sorry, because I hate it too. But just so people can see the trend. And it looks like it's just getting started. I have a little model that I won't show, but it's pointing to an increase in volatility, which we saw today. And, over the past few days, obviously. But it hasn't really been reflected in the market, right? And that's the interesting thing. When you look at the market, everything is kind of still floating up here in this 20,000 area. Even today, 19,990. Right? It's not really kaput. It did give us some volatility today. We had some two-way action, right? Some two-sided action, pretty big range. Right now, the market seems to be wanting to test this area of resistance. And right now, it's a little weak relative to this area. But this has been the trade all day. Ever since it sold off in the morning, it just chopped around, rolled up into 20,000, sold off, rolled up into 20,000 again, and sold off on strong volume, but sellers can't sustain it. So, pretty obvious what you got to do once you see something this strong come in and then not hold. You just go long. Simple as that. If you're trading intraday, right? Because you keep track of all that kind of stuff, like volume and stuff like that. So But all right, guys. That's all I got for today. If you guys got any questions, let's see. Is it time to buy hex? I don't even understand that question. You haven't been buying hex? What you waiting for? Like I don't understand that. Uh, is this strategy called dollar cost averaging? If you're playing the smart game, which is for the long term, you're always buying. So, that's the recommended strategy. If you're not doing it for the long term, you're on your own. You make your own determinations as to when you buy and sell. So it's really that simple. Um, yeah, it's not rocket science. Definitely don't make it that, because then you make decisions that you don't intend to make, and then they become very aggravating. What percentage of unemployment has to hit for the U.S. um, to have a real estate problem like China? I wouldn't think of it like that. I would think of it as a money problem. It's never an unemployment problem. It's a lack of money that people just don't have money. Um, and if they end up losing their jobs in conjunction with not having enough money, and that's definitely a problem, right? And what we're seeing today is a simple realization of the destruction of the value of the currency. And the average person has no idea that is what's going on. I mean, think about that, right? I mean, think about that. Um, Everybody's walking around thinking that everything is okay, but it's really not, and that's dangerous because that's when you get blindsided, and that's important to understand. Um, so yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Because it seems obvious, but it's not really an unemployment issue, because what if inflation keeps soaring, right? And people just can't keep up with the cost of living. Then it's definitely not an inflation thing. It's a cost thing. And that's important to understand, because how else are people going to be able to get out of the situation that they're in if they don't understand the problem, right? And I think that that's something that it can be very elusive for people sometimes, not understanding. I mean, we got to remember 30 years ago, 40 years ago, one income was sufficient. It was at that time that it started becoming not. That's not normal. That's wrong. Something's wrong with that. No, it's really a function of their over capacity and overdoing everything. So everybody knows China has a billion people, blah blah blah. What everybody doesn't know is that all those people are not gainfully employed. All those people are not in cities. All those people are not a part of that cohort that's even thrived off of the the change in China. You know what I mean? So it's a little interesting, when people think that they're gonna get. I mean, and here's the thing. I've been studying China since 2010, and I was lucky enough to meet this dude when I was in college that was straight out of China. So I peppered that motherfucker with questions every day. Anything I could think of, I asked for verification, because that's what it's about. You want to know if you're right or wrong. You don't want to be guessing. And he just confirmed everything is just like here, basically. So everybody thinks they're living in some special world or whatever, and they're not. I mean, look at what they're doing to people in North Carolina to their faces with these crazy ass excuses. So China's more of a control scenario. The government controls everything. There's no real flow of capital. It's only recently that we're seeing that relinquishing of the scenario, like the control factor, like loosen up a little bit in China, which is why we're seeing the Chinese stock market actually rip lately. Um, yeah, nah, people are well aware. Well, this is a good question because people are well aware. Do you think by not calling it a recession, people don't feel a recession? So some recessions are identified a year later. Yeah, typically every recession is identified after it's already happened. It's always typically speculation that drives the notion of there being one. Like in 2006, 7, it's pretty obvious we were in a recession because of all the things that were happening. And of course, it didn't call it until 2008 or 9 or some shit like that. So, doesn't really matter what they call. It's whatever. They're always gonna do whatever is in their best interest, and that's just how that goes. Um, so yeah, that's how that one works. Don't get too tied down into crazy. Just do your analysis and be good. Cause and just pick a strategy, stick to it, and excel at it, and figure out what you want to actually do. What do you mean both hexes, bro? Pick one and stake it. I don't really know what you're asking. Like pick one. I say pick both. I like both. But that's just me. Because both serve different purposes. It just depends on what you like about the interest rate on both chains. Chinese people got grifted by putting upfront tens of thousands of dollars worth for you on a deposit for homes. Yep. That happens here too. And the home builders had too much debt to finish the buildings. Yeah, that was the evergreen thing. And that's common. That's not the first time that happens in China. It's not the first time. Won't be the last. Buy hex for sure. My interest is whether or not the staking feature is wise to be doing. Just given the volatility of the current market, I think saying something like would be better. And this is the appropriate reply to those two comments. LOL. If you don't understand the point of staking, then sit there and think about it. If your objective is to just hold mere paper money and not a store of value, then you don't really want to be dealing with Hex. If you're looking for a store of value, then you pick a decent time frame, right? Something decent. That's gonna allow you to benefit from the rate of interest that the system produces just because you're staking in the system. Um, I don't know why people make it more complicated than that, but that's really all it is. Um, if you like to earn money while you sleep, then you like Hex. 1 + 1 is 2. That's pretty much how that's going down. So, yeah. I mean, I love yield. I love Hex. I love farming on post chain. I do all the things I can to fatten up thy purse. If you've never read The Richest Man in Babylon, well, shoot, you should read it. It's a pretty good book. Pretty good book. Oh, damn. All right, guys. Yeah, that's cool. 75. All right. Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't get too caught up in the whole good accounting and the end stake. Like, if you're staking for 3 years, then you might want to rethink what you're doing. Um, I like to think of crypto as a Bitcoin centric strategy, period, because we don't actually know what the future is going to be. So it's smart to plan for the long term because that's what a lot of people didn't do when Bitcoin came out. We've seen Bitcoin, we've seen Ethereum. My bet is that Hex is the next one because it's all evolutionary. And if you understand humans, then you understand that there will be another one. And if your bet is that there will be another one, we'll pick the best one you think is that next one. So, things to think about. You guys have a good one. Peace.